To this now, Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge has defended what he calls playful WhatsApp conversations between himself and Secretary Mengo. He's been testifying at a tribunal looking into sexual misconduct allegations against him. Mengo accuses Mbenenge of making unwanted sexual advances towards her. This was between 2021 and 2022. Newzroom Afrika's Mnisi following those proceedings for us, and he joins us in studio tonight to give us a day's wrap of what's been said today. And Linda, good evening to you. The Judge President of the Eastern Cape taking the stand in his own defense today. And what really got me thinking was what he says are a number of no's. I think the recording was about 12 no's. But he says there wasn't a single. Let's start there.
Yeah, essentially you'd recall that this follows the evidence of the gender-based violence expert, Dr. Lisa Vetten, who indicated that Mengo, in those WhatsApp messages, seems to be using a particular strategy, which is evasion. Sometimes she postpones doing things like, sending of a nude picture. And sometimes she just goes silent, saying that she had, on many occasions, tried to respond in ambiguous terms, and, there are instances where she said no. So he's been going through those WhatsApp messages and giving his own interpretation. This is now the Judge President who's taken the stand, giving his own interpretation of the conversations. And what he says was a consensual conversation that was happening between two consenting adults. Right. And he basically, he also speaks about the issue around the power dynamics, because you'd recall that part of her evidence was that she assessed the WhatsApp messages in the context of a workplace environment. And therefore, there was that issue around the Judge President being a senior judge in the Eastern Cape and Mengo being a junior secretary. And he indicates that, in fact, he is a member of the judiciary, and Mengo is employed in terms of the Public Services Act. And he's not the, supervisor of Mengo. He does not get involved in the process of appointing secretaries, because there was also an allegation that he interferes with administrative issues, quote-unquote, swapping secretaries for his own benefit. And he says, I'm not part of that particular process. And in fact, he was also asked about the flirtatious messages, right? To say, in these messages, there is a level of flirtation. What was the purpose of it? Let's take a listen to how he responded to that.
Your flirtatious, salacious conversation with the complainant, how do you describe them? What were they, and what was their purpose?
It is indeed true that it came to pass that I became interested in relating with the complainant.
You'll recall, Oli, that, the issue around the WhatsApp conversations is not necessarily in dispute. What the Judge President says is that it was consensual. Right. What is in dispute are the pictures, the alleged sending of his manhood, saying that that never really happened. But of course, there are two specific dates. One where he allegedly made a comment about Mengo's dress code, and he responded to that today, saying that he's always been pedantic about dress code, and that's why people call him cute. It's always been something that, he's always been fussy about, because he cares about the manner in which one presents themselves. But also...
Sorry, he referred to himself as cute.
Yeah, well, other people have made reference to him as cute. but he also speaks about the 15th of November, 2022. This is the day where he allegedly asked Mengo to perform a sexual act on him. You'd recall those sordid details around how she came into the judge's office, and there was, his bulging crotch, and, giving all those salacious details, and then asking her to perform a sexual act. And he says, on that day, I didn't even see Andiswa Mengo. Let's take a listen to how he put it.
On 15 November 2022, from the time I arrived in my chambers around 9 until I left around noon, I had no interaction whatsoever with Ms. Mengo. I say that under oath. I had no interaction with Ms. Mengo on the 15th. At paragraph 20 of the complainant's complaint, the complainant alleges that on 15 November 2022, at his Umtata High Court chambers, the respondent called the complainant to his chambers, unzipped his pants and attempted to draw his erect penis, and the complainant ran out of the office. At what time, this is the request for particulars, at what time on 15 November 2022 did the alleged incident take place? Time is of the essence, Chairperson.
Very quickly, Linda, so what happens tomorrow? Does he continue testifying in his own defense?
Yeah, he continues testifying in what is quite an interesting process, because you see very minimal, interaction between him and his counsel. In fact, they said that they would deal with this evidence in chief and themes. So they throw a question and he elaborates and elaborates. So it's not necessarily a step-by-step what happened. It's quite different. And you will see Andiswa Mengo, they're keeping a very stoic, face during the proceedings, taking notes with her pen. But obviously, this is a process that continues tomorrow. Yeah. He's still going through those WhatsApp messages. And of course, alleging that all of it was consensual and they were flirting as adults.
Linda Mnisi, thank you very much indeed for the wrap of the day's proceedings at the tribunal.